What's up, Vault Hunters? I'm SchviftyFive, and this is Ultimate Vault Hunters. The reception to our inaugural One Life Build guide was so overwhelmingly positive, we decided to bring Depriesticles back for the 14th installment of Ultimate Vault Hunters. Today, Priest will break down the finer points of how to One Life with the legendary assassin Zane, including a great analysis of how Zane's purple tree can be effectively incorporated into any One Life build. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining the conversation. Whether you're joining us on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter, or listening along on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Spotify, we thank you for tuning in and listening to the program. For those who want to watch Ultimate Vault Hunters as soon as it goes live, you can hear it first bi-weekly, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Twitch and YouTube. Priest, how's it going? How you been?
Good. It's good to be back. How you doing, Liz?
I'm great. You enjoying Arms Race?
Oh, I love Arms Race personally. As a challenge runner, you know, I'm a One Life guy, so it's just kind of like a little mini One Life, and I can't get enough of it. I absolutely love it.
Have you been taking any of your One Life characters into Arms Race?
I did actually. Really? Tess and I, during our co-op One Life, that's the first thing we did, because you get some really good loot in there, and it's high chances of getting some decent stuff, and get extracted and use right at the beginning of the game. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of really good stuff in there. I got some good guns in there. I went through one of the takedowns and just melted. It was awesome. It's really rewarding. I like it a lot. So
high risk, high reward. Yeah, especially in a One Life.
And that's the thing, though. You can go in and just kill some stuff and then extract your 3 items and just get out if you want to. You don't really have to always fight the boss. But the more you do, the more stuff you get. So It's really awesome. Okay, so we have a skill tree to go through. We're going to go through the skill tree, and then we're going to learn how to spec for endgame.
Right, which is very similar to how the rest of the build is, but I'll explain that a little bit later.
All right, so take me through the first build.
This is a Zane build, and it's very, very health mitigation focused. As you know, being a One Life, we want high survivability, but we also have to make sure that we're doing enough damage to be able to progress through the game. So looking here at the purple tree first, the newest tree that everyone's all excited about. The first thing we'll do is take the MNTIS Shoulder Cannon as our first action skill. And I love the MNTIS Cannon. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a lot of fun to use.
Nice.
So we'll take that. And so when I start a One Life, I start like New Game Plus or whatever. It's at level 13. I start with the DLC just so I can skip that kind of the beginning of the game where it's just kind of repetitive.
Right.
So you start at level 13. You have 11 skill points. The first 3 are going to go into the top middle skill in the purple tree called Renegade. And that's just you get health regeneration on critical hits. And as a One Life build, you definitely want that health regen right out the gate.
Right.
So first 3 points into Renegade. And then your following 2 points would be on the leftmost top skill tree called Mana Focus. And that's just going to get you that accuracy and handling on action skill, activating your action skill. Your next 5 points are all going to be dumped into Commitment. It's the second tier far right tree, or far right skill rather, and that's gun damage and action skill cooldown rate. Mostly what we want is the gun damage here, and right at the beginning of this tree, we get health regeneration and gun damage. So Zane is really killing it with the whole One Life thing early on in the game. So I was really excited to see that.
Just to be clear, this is how you would level, right?
Yes. Yeah. These are your first. You start with 11 skill points, and this is how you would spec your first 11.
Fantastic.
So 3 into Renegade, 2 into Mana Focus, 5 into Commitment, and then what we're going to do is move over to the blue tree. So your first 10 would go into purple, and then your 11th first skill point that you would have would go into Violent Momentum for even more gun damage as you're moving. The faster you move, the more gun damage you do. And then you start playing the game, you start gaining your levels, and as you progress through your levels, what you're going to do is you're going to bounce back and forth for a few levels between Violent Speed and Violent Momentum right there in the blue tree. And our goal here is to be able to move faster and then gun damage, the higher gun damage based on your movement speed. But we want to get down to the second tier here. So you just go violent speed, then violent momentum, then violent speed, violent momentum again, and then you're into the second tier in the blue tree, and your next 5 points are going to be dumped into salvation. And that's life steal after killing an enemy. And so there's
great.
more health mitigation for you to keep you alive for longer. So after your 5 points in salvation, just put one more into violent speed, and it kind of just balances out between your movement speed and your gun damage bonuses between your move speed and your gun damage there. And then we want to move over into the green tree. And our first 3 points into the green tree are going to go into Hardy Stock for the maximum shield capacity. Again, 1 life. We want to make sure that we're surviving. And then 2 points into Adrenaline, and this is going to help with our action skill cooldown. The action skill cooldown is really important because we want to be able to spam Mantis Cannon as much as possible. And the farther that we get in the game, the more skill points that we get, we'll start to see that the action skill cooldown is going to be reduced more and more as we're going. So this is just kind of the beginning of that. We want to be able to spam Mantis Cannon as much as possible. And also we're going to be using a barrier, and we want to be able to get our barrier out there as fast as possible too. So action skill cooldown rate is pretty important for this. The next 5 points are going to be in the second tier far left skill called Brain Freeze. And that just allows you to freeze enemies when you hit them with critical hits. So 5 points into that. And right about here is where we start seeing the shift to being a Cryo Build. Yeah, and I love Cryo. I've said it before. Cryo is my favorite element in the game. I think it's a lot of fun to use. So Brain Freeze is one of my all-time favorite skills. The next one is going to go into Disturbed Denial. And what this one does is it says Zane's barrier gains the effect of his currently equipped shield mod. And you can use this skill paired with your whatever shield you decide to use. There's a few different options that you can use to be able to either get like bullet reflection or something if your shield has bullet reflection on it, or if you have a stopgap. The stopgap, when it breaks, you get 5 seconds of immunity, damage immunity, and that will copy onto your barrier if you decide to use that one. So there's a lot of really cool synergies between Disturbed Denial and what shield you decide to use.
Where is Disturbed Denial? Are we still on the green tree?
Green tree, yeah, it's still a green tree, third tier. It's the only skill in the third tier on the green tree.
Be confident competence?
They got switched. They moved. Confident competence used to be there, and now that's the capstone. They got flipped.
Oh, okay.
They did that in the blue tree too, actually. So after Disturbed Denial, you should be right about the time that you're finishing up normal Vault Hunter mode, right around level 35, somewhere between 30 and 35. Once you hit true Vault Hunter mode, you want to go back to the purple tree.
Okay.
So we started with the purple, we went over to blue, we jumped over to green, and now we're going back to the purple again. Now, going back into the purple tree, what we want to do is take Fugitive so we can sprint and shoot at the same time, which is super, super handy, especially since we're now like you're seeing you're getting more gun damage the faster you're moving.
Yeah.
So being able to sprint and shoot at the same time is just more gun damage as you're shooting. So that's really handy. Their next 5 points are all going to be into Headsman's Hand, which is just bonus crit damage. And this is probably one of my favorite skills, like in Borderlands 3. Just bonus crit damage, and it stacks twice.
Ooh.
It's really, really handy.
Nice.
But accuracy and handling are going to be an issue now that you're moving so quickly. So your next 3 points are going to be into Tunnel Vision, which is just a second tier middle skill. Tunnel Vision, and it just gives you increased accuracy and handling the quicker that you're moving. So now we're seeing ourselves with Violent Speed and Fugitive. We're moving really quickly. We can get bonus accuracy and handling by putting 3 points into Tunnel Vision there.
Wonderful.
Next, we want to go down to Domino Effect, because you're going to start realizing that your reload speed is kind of taking a little bit of a hit here, and we need to progress down the tree. So we'll put 2 points into domino effect, and then 3 points into sheer will. And this is where we really, really start seeing our action skill being almost instantly cooled down, because every time you get a critical hit, it reduces your action skill cooldown rate. So 3 points.
That had that effect in on Flak as well. That's awesome.
It's absolutely phenomenal, especially with MNTIS Cannon, because the cooldown rate is already pretty low, and the focus of this build is to get critical hits. That's where a lot of your damage is going to come from. There's a new anoint out with Designer's Cut where it says while your barrier is active, you gain accuracy and critical hit damage, 60% increased accuracy and 70% increased critical hit damage.
Wow.
Yeah, 70% crit damage. And so you really, really want to make sure that you're going for crits. And while you're hitting your crits, sheer will is just going to be able to, it's going to give you ridiculous amounts of action skill cooldown rate. And since we're getting crits, we want 1 point into Eraser, which is Borderlands 3 Boar. If you get a crit, it pierces that enemy and it does bonus damage to enemies behind it. One of the best skills, in my opinion, as long as you can line it up right. But we just had that 1 point in there, just kind of just in case. You know, if you're fighting in a crowd of enemies or something, and you're trying to hit those crits, those shots can pierce and you get that bonus damage, and it really helps. And then we're just going to capstone this one. Arm and Flint, bonus damage when you aim down sights, and automatically apply status effects when you're aiming down sights and you score a critical hit.
Ooh.
I love this skill. And you can actually, with the new class mod that you get from Arms Race, the Suave Spy, you can get one of those to drop with that capstone skill on it. And it doubles your gun damage that you would get when you aim down sights up to 50%.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
And you get that where?
You get that from Arms Race.
Arms Race? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the new class mods that drops.
All right, so what skill tree next? Are we going back to the green tree?
Yep, now we're going back to the green tree. And we want to be able to progress down this tree. We want to hit the capstone on this, Confident Competence, for the extra gun damage. So there are other skills that we want to spec into, but priority comes with the later tiers. And so we kind of need to jump back and forth a little bit. So we want to start putting points into Ready for Action. The top right skill, so the shield recharge rate and delay, it's a fantastic skill. And so back at the green tree, we'll put 4 points into Ready for Action, which brings us down to the 4th tier, where we want just 1 point in each of those ones. 2 of them max out with 1 point. Really Expensive Jacket, Futility Belt are each 1 point each. They're 1 point each. And Best Serve Cold, you just want 1 single point into it. And Best Serve Cold is a kill skill. Whenever you get a kill, Zane has a Cryo Nova that explodes around him. And that's just going to help you slow down the enemies so you can hit your crits a little bit easier.
Are the other 2, I mean, why not 3 into Best Served Cold? Are the other 2 quality of life or?
No, we want just the 1 in there because the damage of it is not all that great.
Okay.
We just want that Cryo Nova to be able to slow down mobs so that we can hit our crits easier. We don't need it for the damage though. So once we put those 3 skills in, we'll go back up and put our final skill into Ready for Action for our shield recharge rate and delay. And then the top left skill, Adrenaline, we'll put 1 more point into that one so that we can get down to the 5th tier, where we'll take Calm, Cool, and Collected for the health regeneration, the potential to automatically reset your action skills and stuff. It's a fantastic skill. You definitely want it.
Cool.
And 3 into Refreshment, which is going to give you life steal when you do damage against frozen enemies.
Ooh.
And this is, we're seeing this turn into a very cryocentric build here.
Yeah.
We have 2 skill points left. What we want is 1 more into Adrenaline up at the very top.
Okay.
So we can get further action skill cooldown rate, and then we'll capstone with confident competence. So where it sits right now, right here at the very end, we put 3 points into refreshment, which gives us 24% lifesteal of your damage dealt to frozen enemies. But earlier on, way back at the beginning of this, we put 5 points into salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and on top of that, we have the 3 points into renegade, our first 3 points that we spec'd.
So this is going to be the respec. We're talking respec for the end. Okay.
Yes.
So,
now is the time where we want to respec. We have 3 different skills, all capped out for health regeneration, and we don't need that much health regen.
Okay.
So I know it's right here at the end of the build, but now is when you want to respec. And the only thing that you really want to do is go into the blue tree, and you want to take those points into salvation. You want to keep 1 point into salvation, which gives you 4 available skill points, and just move those up both into violent speed and violent momentum, and you can max both of those out, and you get the extra gun damage and the extra move speed from the move speed that you're getting.
Right.
So at end game, now you're dealing just a little bit more damage, but you have the health mitigation skills in renegade and refreshment, so you no longer need all of those points into salvation.
Cool. So we went through the entire tree, literally exactly in order of every single point of every single level. And then at the very end, we're going to take those points out of salvation and put them into violent speed, violent momentum.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. Awesome.
Yep.
So that will be our end game One Life build.
Yes. And it is viable at end game. I've run Mayhem 11, all sorts of different stuff, and it's definitely viable, but it still is focused on survivability. You definitely want to be able to stay alive. And when you're running the One Life, I believe that this is probably the best Zane build that you can use now to be able to complete a One Life with survivability and high DPS.
Have you done any of the takedowns with it?
I've done the Mallet 1 takedown with it several times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's cool. It takes a little bit to get to like the bosses. When you reach Rotan, it takes a little bit longer to be able to kill him than some other builds. But again, this is focused on staying alive as opposed to just high DPS.
Right. So what augments for your action skill do you take?
So for the MNTIS cannon, you want to go cold shoulder. You can wait a little bit to spec into cold shoulder for your augment if you want to be able to use it for just a little bit more damage. But mostly the MNTIS cannon is used to help freeze enemies through this. And so cold shoulder, and then the next one is wet work, which is just directly below that on the left side of the skill tree.
Sorry. Cool. All right. Awesome. The jokes with this game are literally the best, and I am so glad they have a sense of humor in Gearbox and 2K. So anyway, just gonna glaze over that one. Okay, cool. So we take cold shoulder and wet work.
Yeah, and there's a reason why specifically those two. If you take No Way Out, it increases your duration, your action skill duration. You don't want that. Okay. And then the other one, the other two rather, Brain Drain, it gives you 2 charges instantly, and you want to be able to use your final MNTIS cannon charge, because we're going to be using the Suave Spy that we get from Arms Race as our class mod.
Okay, right.
So we don't want to get those charges back, and then for the same reason, proliferation, we don't want to have those 2 extra charges. And since the build itself has so much action skill cooldown, you don't need those extra charges anyway. You always will be able to spam your cannon.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
I don't think we touched on it, but obviously the second action skill that we're going to be using is the barrier. You can see because we put a lot of skills in Green Tree. Mm-hmm. And obviously, because One Life, we want survivability, and barrier is just the best for that. The only one that really matters in this is All-Rounder. But when you start, you can go Charged Relay if you want, but that doesn't benefit you when you pick up your shield. And same thing with Nanites. So when you're done with the build, you would want Nanites and All-Rounder just in case you do leave your shield on the ground. You want to use it for to be able to benefit off nanites and the health regeneration from that. But really, the only one that we need out of the green tree for the shield is all rounder.
Awesome. Okay, so what do you feel like this build excels at the most for normal mode? Let's say for normal mode.
For normal mode, it's health mitigation. Realistically, what we want is from Renegade and Salvation. You just want to be able to stay alive, and we're just trying to salvage what we can for gun damage through NVHM or normal Vault Hunter mode.
And what about for TVHM?
In the latter portions of this build, you'll see that it gets very, very good at crowd control. Ooh. It's very good for mobbing, extremely good for mobbing. And still, it has the high health mitigation or just high survivability throughout the duration of the entire playthrough.
What would you say the main rotation of this build is?
So what you want to do initially is just start spamming your MNTIS Cannon.
Okay.
And what you're going to do using the Suave Spy class mod, what that says is after you use your last charge for your MNTIS Cannon, you activate all your kill skills and they get 10% effectiveness. So you want to start proccing your kill skills, and that's going to get you your move speed and extra gun damage because move speed through violent momentum and violent speed. You automatically start regenerating health. There's a lot of things that are beneficial for proccing those kill skills. And your action skill cooldown is so high by the end of this that you can just keep spamming it, and you can stack your commitment stacks up to you can maintain 12 or 13 even if there's no enemies around. And so that's where you want to start. It's just start spamming your MNTIS Cannon, find your enemies, throw your shield down, and pick it up. Throw your shield down, pick it up. You want to pick up your shield and just start shooting enemies. Aim for crits. You really, really need to hit your crits.
Get that action skill back. Yeah,
the action skill. Your barrier will reset for every kill that you get, and it'll stay alive for longer. Or the barrier will stay out for longer as long as there's mobs around.
Awesome. How does this build fare overall with the takedowns?
I haven't tested it in the Guardian takedown just yet, but I've done Malawan takedown several times, and it's really good. It's a lot of fun. Just freezing enemies all over the place, and it just the crowd control potentials with this thing it's a lot of fun for mobbing. It does take a little bit to get the bosses and stuff down, but it's
that's not what you're focused on. No, you're focused on staying alive.
Yeah, so you can stay alive for long enough to be able to get them down. It just takes you a little bit longer is all.
Okay, cool. About the skill tree, it seems early on you prioritize survival skills over damage. Does it ever feel like you're lacking for damage as a result, or do you feel that it facilitates a slower, more methodical way of playing the game?
I don't feel like I'm ever lacking for damage with this one. Even early on, because we can get commitment so early, like right out the gate, we can get commitment, and that's just gun damage. You get 35%, or not 35%. You get bonus gun damage and action skill cooldown rate from your commitment stacks alone. And then you're right though, it does focus on keeping your health up with Renegade and Salvation. I don't ever feel like I'm lacking for damage though.
Even with bossing?
No, I don't think so. Okay. Just because of the mindset that this is a survival build and not so much a DPS build.
Right.
I don't feel like I need to take down the bosses in 0.13 seconds, Right.
Totally understandable. So there are a lot of options for weaponry to look out for when playing through on normal mode. What are some of the guns that players may especially want to look out for?
On normal mode, your options are pretty open. There are some things that I recommend for people to do when doing a One Life.
Okay.
Mostly focused on Jacob's weapons, like Jacob's sniper rifles or shotguns, where you get just the bonus crit damage out of them. But with this build, there's not a lot of elemental skills that you're spec'd into. And so if you can find things like some Malawan weapons, like an Atomizer or a Terminator or a Nebula, those things will really help you be able to strip shields and stuff. through normal Vault Hunter mode, but normal Vault Hunter mode, you should be able to just rely on your commitment stacks and the base gun damage to be able to get you through. So just use what you're comfortable through normal mode.
What about TVHM?
When you get into true Vault Hunter mode and you can actually start like farming for legendaries, there are some weapons that you definitely want to get your hands on. A Maggie, for example, with the high crit damage on that thing. If you can hit the crits with that, it's a phenomenal weapon. Hellwalker, the Light Show, Redistributor is absolutely amazing with this build. Flipper, something like a Flipper or a Monarch. What you really want is high pellet count, high fire rate weapons.
Okay.
To be able to hit your crits quickly, and that will help freeze the enemies faster.
Interesting, interesting. So what anointments should players be aware of and try to obtain during their run?
There's one anointment in particular that you definitely want to keep an eye out for, and it's a new one. It's the while barrier is active, accuracy is increased by 60%, and critical hit damage is increased by 70%.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, it makes a huge, huge difference. And so, especially in the latter portions when you're using this build and you have that anoint, where your action skill is so, you get your action skills back so fast,
Yeah,
you
man.
always can throw your barrier out. You'll always have it. And as long as you're hitting your crits, you get 70% extra crit damage. And that complements, they're in the purple tree, Headsman's Hand, where you get even more crit damage from it. So that's the top tier anointment on your weapons that you want. But things like consecutive hits work really, really well too.
Wow. Yeah. Get those extra crits. Are there any weapons or gear that you go out of your way to obtain that help your playthrough?
Yes. Right out the gate, I go into an arms race run. Or 2 or 3, depending on how many it takes.
Wow. Okay.
The Suave Spy class mod is pretty key for this because you're using your MNTIS cannon. And like I said earlier, it's the last charge of your MNTIS cannon where you activate all your kill skills. So you don't need a spec into Seeing Red, and you don't need a Seeing Dead. This replaces those entirely. And since you're always spamming your shoulder cannon, you're constantly getting your kill skills based on that. And the Suave Spy gets you points into commitment and Headsman's Hand. And it also can it has the skill for the capstone on the purple tree, Arm and Flint.
So with that capstone, I mean, you technically don't have to cap it. You could put that point somewhere else, right?
You could, but it doubles the effectiveness. So when you capstone, you get 25% extra damage when you aim down sights. If you get a Suave Spy with the capstone on it, it doubles it to 50% additional damage.
Goodness.
It's pretty crazy.
That is awesome.
I go out of my way to get a Suave Spy every time. And if you can get things like weapon damage and reload speed on it, because we don't really have a whole lot of reload speed skills spec'd into this build.
Hit damage.
Critical hit damage, that was the big one. Crit damage, weapon damage, reload speed. That's the god roll for a Suave Spy.
Awesome. And
the other thing, though,
anywhere?
No, that's just an arms race.
No, I mean anywhere in arms race. Like if you're like.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's not just a boss drop.
Not as far as I know. No, I think I've gotten it all over the place.
Cool.
There's one other thing, though, in arms race that you want to keep an eye out for, and that's the shield that I like to use with this build. It's the Beskar shield. And it complements our green tree skill, the Disturb Denial, where your barrier gains a copy of your shield mod skills. And the Beskar shield has 100% chance to reflect projectiles when shielded, 100%, and 50% damage reduction while shielded. So with the copy of that on the barrier, your survivability is just drastically increased.
That's insane.
Yeah, there are some other shields.
Insane. Oh, sorry.
It's crazy good. It's crazy good. And the Suave Spy and the Beskar, I'm really glad they're in the game now with the purple tree, because this build, it's the one life potentials with those pieces of equipment make it so much better. So much better. The other shields, though, that you can look out for if you don't get a Beskar to drop is a stopgap. It gets you the 5 seconds of immunity when on shield break, and that transfers over to your barrier also. So when your barrier breaks, you get 5 seconds of immunity, and as long as you're hitting your crits and getting your action skill cooldown rate within that 5 seconds, you're going to be able to throw your barrier out again. So it keeps you alive.
That's awesome.
Or a transformer, just because a transformer is just really, really good.
It's awesome. It's like the best shield to have, like as a backup for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if one should drop, what legendary should players keep an eye out for?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say probably the two, at least in base game, without going into DLCs, would be the Maggie and the Hellwalker.
Okay.
Those two are outrageously good. If you do have access to the DLCs, get a light show and a flipper. And once you get to the part to where you can start doing the takedowns, look for like a Kib's worth. If while you are doing arms race runs, keep an eye out for a plasma coil. Definitely want to pick those things up and use them if you get them. I got
a plasma coil in my arms race run, and oh my god, I think mine has like 2 times damage while action skill is active, and on Moe's with the little baby bear is amazing.
The plasma coil is just a fantastic gun to begin with. And with a 200 ASA anointment on it, that makes it even better.
Oh, so good. Okay, so what grenade mods do you use?
We don't use a grenade, actually. Not at all. Yeah. Because we're using a shield and the MNTIS cannon. And we don't spec into any skills that would allow you to be able to use a grenade.
Man, I'm not a Zane player, so I completely didn't even think about that. Okay, great. What shields do you use? We talked about the stopgap, and you talked about the
Beskar.
The Beskar.
The Beskar is the one that you want to keep an eye out for while you're doing your arms race runs to get your SchviftyFive.
When you do your arms race runs, like that still counts as one life, right? So like if you die.
If I die, it's over. And it's very, very high risk, high reward.
The first time I ran into arms race, I didn't know that there was a white chest that spawned right next to you.
Were you trying to melee everything?
Started meleeing everything.
Oh no.
Of course I died, but like, oh my god, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I didn't either, honestly. I happened to catch it just by looking around, but yeah, it's arms race is a lot of fun, but especially during a one life, you really have to play it safe, be calculated, and really, really hope you get some decent RNG so that you can survive the run.
Man, takes a lot of cojones to do arms race on a one life build. What class mods do you use?
The SchviftyFive is the only one that I'm going to go for. I will do arms race runs until I get one, and you can get it right at level 13. So when you start, the first thing you do is an arms race run, and hopefully you get one to drop. If not, maybe do another one. I will continue to do it until I get a SchviftyFive. Cool. And you don't need to keep going back into arms race to get like updated levels, updated or current level ones, because you still get the bonuses from the SchviftyFive regardless the level. Unless
Except for the passives are going to have to level up.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Is like if you find yourself struggling, you might want to go back to get one with the better passive rolls.
Awesome.
One last thing is the artifact. We haven't talked about the artifact. I didn't say which one I'm going to be using.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of obvious for a lot of people, but you want an icebreaker. An icebreaker, I use an icebreaker Victory Rush.
Okay.
And since there's badasses all over the place, the Victory Rush, you get extra movement speed and damage, and move speed translates into damage. So it's just extra damage from the Victory Rush. And the icebreaker, you get bonus cryo efficiency and bonus damage against frozen targets.
Wow, that's a lot of cryo, dude.
There's a ton of cryo. Things almost instantly freeze.
Really?
Yeah, it's things freeze with just like 1 or 2 shots.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really neat.
So what Guardian rank talents should players focus on to get the most bonus stats for this build?
As the name implies of the Guardian rank column, the blue one, the survivor column, the survivor tree of the Guardian ranks, this pretty much the only ones you need to really focus on if you're trying to do one lives. There's the other ones do help here and there with like some gun damage or whatnot, but almost everything down the blue tree is focused on survival. fight for your lifetime, bonus shields, get your shields back after, full shields after getting out of fight for your life, killing enemies trigger shield regeneration. So just focus on that blue survivor tree there from your guardian ranks, and you'll have a lot easier time.
Are there any that you should disable?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Hollow point, you're fine. No, I'm kidding. Just like PTSD from the beginning of the game when it used to explode and oh my goodness.
Kill yourself with it all the time. Yeah. That was
but
miserable.
Now it's fixed. It's fixed. So how did you test this build?
Trial and error. I knew that I wanted to do something with the purple tree.
Okay.
And so keeping One Life in mind, I saw immediately Renegade and Commitment right out the gate. That's just amazingly good. And I tried to do it with drone and focus on kill skills and stuff here and there. But the barrier is just too good for a One Life. And there's some really, really good skills in there. And once I realized that you can focus on green tree and be able to cryo things, and when they're cryoed, they can't shoot back. That's when I realized that you definitely need to go green tree for survivability.
Yeah, stopping everything from shooting you is definitely an advantage.
Yeah.
We have that advantage with flak now with the purple tree as well, which is great.
Yes.
What were some of the initial impressions when you first tested this build?
I was honestly really impressed. I didn't expect it to perform as well as it did. This is easily the best One Life build that I've ever put together because of its high damage potentials and equally high survival rates.
Awesome. So what did the numbers look like compared to other similar builds, both ones that you've crafted and ones you've seen other community members display?
I mean, I'm going to hold true to my word and say this is probably the best One Life build in the game to date.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun to play with. The crowd control is amazing, and the health mitigation that you have throughout the duration of the entire playthrough, not just at certain points or when you reach certain levels, is really, really good. And I'd argue the fact that this is probably the best One Life build in the game to date.
Wow, good to be proud of what you're doing. That's awesome. Do you feel that there are any changes that Gearbox can make to the game that would further refine this build without making it drastically over or underpowered?
No, honestly, I think it's kind of overpowered as it is.
Really?
Yeah. It's just the ability to be able to cryo things so quickly. It changes the game. Being able to One Life this effectively on Zane, where before the purple tree was here, I struggled with Zane, and other One Lifers and challenge runners that I talked to also struggled playing Zane. But the purple tree completely 180'd that, and now I'd say that Zane is the best One Lifer.
Did you know what was the character that you brought to us before, the One Life character? Was that also a Zane?
Amara. It was an Amara.
Okay, but you feel like Zane is probably the best One Life.
Yeah, as an Amara main, I'm scared of Zane's damage numbers.
Nice.
I really, with the addition to the purple tree, Zane I think takes the cake as probably being the beast of Borderlands 3 now.
Wow, that is a lofty claim.
Yeah, but I think it's true. I think it's true.
Love to see some of those clips. I can't wait to see them when this goes live. It's going to be great. So what advice would you have for players starting out in Borderlands 3 right now?
Starting out right now?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Take your time. Take your time. Pick up everything. There are countless guns in this game, and your playstyle might not be the same as somebody else's playstyle. So I know for a lot of people, newer players that I talk to will be like, oh, what's the best build for X character, or who's the strongest build, who has the strongest, highest DPS build right now. Don't worry about that. Enjoy the game itself, soak in the story and the lore, and just try everything.
Yeah.
Because the experiences that are going to give you joy are unique to you.
That is so true. That is so true. And there's so much to choose from in this game. There's so many completely different playstyles. What advice would you have for players looking to get started on their own One Life adventure?
Your own One Life adventure. Hoard Jacob's weapons. That's my favorite one. Is just the bonus crit damage, especially through normal Vault Hunter mode. It absolutely obliterates. So if you are just starting to get into one lifing or challenge runs in general, find yourself some Jacob's weapons and keep some other weapons that have different elements attached to them. So if you know, a shock weapon, a corrosive weapon, make sure that you keep your variety in your backpack or on your person so that you can deal with whatever you find, whether it be a blue shield or a yellow shield. But definitely 100% the crit that you get from Jacob's weapons is going to most likely carry you through your normal Vault Hunter or NVHM playthrough.
Would it be advantageous for somebody to keep something that's low level that has good crit damage on it? Like if they had like a low level Maggie or something, just to get the crits so they can get their action skill back? Or
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. In fact, most, not all, but most legendaries that you'll find that'll drop through normal Vault Hunter mode will stay viable through the majority of that playthrough.
Cool. Awesome. Fantastic. Wow. That's it. That's the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me back.
Can you take maybe 15 seconds to tease another character you might be thinking about doing a one life run with for your next appearance?
Yes, and it's going to be the same as I teased the last time around, actually. But okay. Now with the purple skill trees, I'm seeing a lot of potentials with Flak. There's a lot more potentials with Flak, and he's not so much the glass cannon that he used to be. Thankfully. And so I'm working on some pretty neat things with Flak that uses this purple tree that involve high DPS and survivability.
Ooh, I'd be excited to see that. That'd be awesome. Cool. Well, I can't wait to see you next time. This is going to be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on the show. And thank you, Depriesticles, for joining as well. Depriesticles, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me by looking up Depriesticles pretty much anywhere, either on Twitch or YouTube. I know that I have my own YouTube link.
Yay! Congratulations.
On Twitter or any other social platform is just Depriesticles. That's DEPRIESTICLES.
Wonderful. And I am SchviftyFive. You can find me everywhere on the internet, spelled SchviftyFive. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see you next time.
It was an honor and I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
On such short notice and under a little pressure, it was amazing to see Priest come up with a Diamond Class One Life build featuring the purple tree for all of the Zane gang to enjoy. If Borderlands 3 isn't tough enough for you, consider giving One Life runs a try, much like Priest here, who is certainly worthy of the title Ultimate Vault Hunter. Let us know what you think of this week's build and any of your favorite community-led challenges via your favorite social media platform. Thank you so much for joining us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud. If you'd like more details about this build, you can find a link to more information and the builds in the podcast description section. Happy looting to all you Ultimate Vault Hunters out there.